orientation and induction. Now, orientation is the informal process whereby schools will welcome teachers, and especially newly appointed teachers, to the staff and to the organization. This process has been neglected, and it's a very important management tool. As I indicated, some of its features, one is that it is informal. It should be done the day before the educator take up the post, or in the morning, or the day the educator take up the post. It should be the responsibility of the SMT. You don't really need funding to orientate it, to welcome somebody to the organization. But what is important, that you structure the welcome and the orientation. So it is informal, it's structured, there are issues that you want to focus, and there are certain copies of documents that you want to prepare for the orientation. Do not overwhelm the teacher with loads and loads of documentation. At the end of the orientation session, that I am of the opinion should be no longer than an hour to 2 hours. And it could be done in the morning, the day before, or in the afternoon. And there are certain things, that's when it could be done, and there are certain things that it need to focus on. And remember, the purpose of orientation is just to welcome the person into the organization. Now this is then immediately followed by a more planned and a more structured activity and a more formal process that is called induction, where you familiarize the person with the reason why the person has been appointed to the school and has been appointed as a teacher. And there you will focus on instructional leadership. You will focus on various aspects of learning and teaching. But please do also focus on the contextual issues. Speak to the educator about the South African Council for Educators, about the district teams, the circuit teams, the WCED in the province, but also speak to the teachers about the National Department of Basic Education. Another important focus is terms and conditions of service, the leave policy, the school policy, departmental policies. So all of these you're going to have to make copies of, make it in a file, and hand over as a file to educators. And to schools who have not yet put the system of orientation and induction in place, let's make the appeal that we all need to start somewhere, and start today. Now, you are probably going to have different kinds of people being and visiting your school. One would be the practice teaching teacher who's finally a student at universities and colleges and is coming to your school for practice teaching. Now remember, such a person also needs to be orientated and induced. There is a mutual responsibility to do this. And then you will get first-time permanent appointees to your school. And you will spend lots of time in this regard. Now, like I said with orientation, an hour to 2 hours is enough. Induction, however, could take from 2 weeks to a month. And I take it induction will mostly happen in the afternoon, after learners have been dismissed for the day. But make sure that you have a plan and a program and it is structured. Very important that you do that. Another category of teacher you will find would be temporary teachers, coming to your school to relief. Now remember, they too need to be orientated and induced. And the last category of teachers that I want to refer to are what I call just practicing teachers. Teachers who knows the system and has been teaching elsewhere for tens of years, but have now been newly appointed to your organization and needs to be familiarized about the practices and the culture and the philosophy of the new school they are coming to. So be aware that there are different categories and make sure that you decide appropriately as to what kind of topics and issues you want to talk to the candidates or to the mentees and use the terms mentor and mentee in this regard and in this case. What is very important that you understand is that the school documentation handed to a mentee during orientation and induction is in fact school property. And that when you leave, whether you leave on leave, whether you leave permanently, the property of the school remains at the school so that it can be handed over to the next appointee. Schools start with a management plan. SMTs put a management plan for orientation and induction in place. Now, thank you.